Yep. So my name is Josh Bruger. It's Bruegger, the police chief for Pasadena Police Department. So about 9:45 this morning, members of the Gulf Coast Violent Offenders Task Force came out here to serve a warrant on an 18-year-old subject that was wanted for murder. His bond had been forfeited, and so it was a bond forfeiture on a murder warrant. As officers approached the suspect, he did not obey verbal commands. Began to raise his shirt. He had two handguns in his waistband. Began reaching for the handguns, at which time two law enforcement officers discharged their weapons multiple times, striking the suspect, who's deceased here on the scene. It's a Pasadena police officer and a member of the United States Marshal Service, and this is T. Michael O'Connor, the Marshal for the Southern District of Texas.
So it was a Pasadena officer and U.S. Marshal?
It is correct. The Pasadena police officer and a United States Marshal both discharged their weapons, yes.
Can you tell us, when you say execute the warrant here, was he staying at the hotel room or did they pull him over?
No, he was staying here at the hotel.
Did he walk out and approach? Or
He didn't know. Before they could go up to the door, he had come out, and so at that point they went to try to take him into custody. And
can you give us any details of the murder case? What the murder?
I don't have those details yet, and until we notify next of kin, we're not going to release his name. And the Harris County Sheriff's Department, their homicide division, is going to conduct the investigation, along with our internal affairs division and the Harris County District Attorney's Office.
And they identified themselves as verbal command.
His bond was revoked. You know, bonds have been such a point of commentary on that.
Correct.
Was there a reason why his bond was revoked? And do you have any thoughts on that?
I do know his bond was revoked. His dad was a signer on the bond, and apparently he was no longer living with his dad. And his dad, according to the paperwork, his dad didn't feel like he could provide enough oversight, and so he asked to be removed from the bond. And you know, both of the officers that discharged their weapons had readily identifiable, law enforcement vests, and both also verbally identified themselves.
Do we think this is a suspect in Houston?
It is a suspect, yes, in a Harris County homicide case.
18 years old?
He's 18 years old, it's correct.
Does it sadden you at all that they had to end this way? You know, the justice system couldn't intervene.
Anytime, somebody loses their life, regardless of the circumstances, it's tragic. And, he still has a mother, a father and, the officers that are involved as well. It's a traumatic event, no matter the circumstances, for the officers involved. It's, take a human life. It's a big deal.
Marshal O'Connor, correct?
Yes,
sir. Can you give us a sense of the Gulf Coast Violent Offenders Unit? I know what it is. I think we all know what it is, but viewers, what is this unit? And you're dealing with murder, dangerous for fugitives.
Yes, sir. It's been a long term. The Marshal Service has had task forces throughout the United States. Here in the Southern District, they're called the Gulf Coast Violent Task Force. And what we do, because we got to be a force multiplier to assist local agency, like with the Pasadena chief, and we go and we have selected members of those agencies, whether it's the Sheriff's Office, Police Department, DPS, state, and they're collectively work with each other to pursue the worst of the worst. I, as Marshal, swear them in as Special Deputy U.S. Marshals, which extends their authority as they go throughout the region.
Chief, is there any gang affiliation here with this suspect?
That I don't know yet.
Chief, did this happen outside, in front of the doorway of the motel?
It did. It happened outside. There's a vehicle that's parked just past the overhang there. That's where it occurred, out in the parking lot.
And you say what the suspect did listen to verbal commands?
That's correct.
And then raised his shirt, showing multiple weapons?
Yes, and then went to reach for him. He had two handguns in his waistband, and went to reach for him, at which time the officers discharged their weapons.
So this happens when they approach the room at the thing.
He was already out. They were trying to figure out which room he was in, and they saw him come walking through the parking lot, and that's when they confronted him.
So pretty much he was in the balcony in the hallway.
He's really in the it was in the parking lot. There's handicap. I believe it's in handicap parking places, so it's in the parking lot, not really in a breezeway or on the porch.
Talk to us about the bonding agreement. You referenced that his dad initially signed on. So talk to us about that.
So oftentimes with bonds, you have to have somebody to guarantee the funds, and his dad was that person. And according to the bond paperwork that I've seen that was filed with the court, his dad asked to be removed from the bond because he had a curfew as part of his bond conditions. And in the documents that were filed, his father said that he didn't believe that he could adequately supervise him as being a signer on the bond. If he didn't show up in court, he ultimately would be responsible, and so he asked to be removed from that bond.
And from when he was removed, is that when the task force got involved to try to pick him up here?
Correct, because that triggers a warrant because his bond had been revoked. That's correct.
Can you tell us what happens to the officer and the agent who discharged their weapons?
So I can tell you the Pasadena police officer, as standard, any officer-involved shooting, 5 days administrative leave. We have them evaluated to make sure that they're mentally and physically fit to come back to work. And then when they're ready to come back, they can come back.
Did both the agent and the officer fire their weapon, or just the Pasadena?
Both a U.S. Marshal and a Pasadena police officer both discharge their weapons.
Marshal Service has the same protocol.
And just to be clear, Harris County will be investigating this shooting to see if it was justified or will eventually go before grand jury.
That's correct. There are simultaneous investigations that go on in officer-involved shootings. You have a criminal investigation, which is what the Harris County Sheriff's Office will investigate, and they'll ultimately turn it over to the District Attorney's Office for presentation to a grand jury. You have the District Attorney's Office, who will also do a parallel investigation, and then our internal affairs, and I would imagine the U.S. Marshal Service, their equivalent of their internal affairs, I would imagine would probably also do an investigation.
So the suspect is DOA at the scene right now?
He is deceased at the scene, it's correct.